Hello and welcome to New Hope for Today. My name is Pastor Andrew Hise, and I'm the pastor of New Hope Friends Church in Goldsboro, North Carolina. You know, something that I've become very fascinated with over the last maybe year or so, is this idea of cancel culture. I think this is a buzzword that is thrown out all over the place. You can't escape it, especially if you're on social media, you're within just watching news or watch even sports. It's kind of leaked over into sports in some ways. Sports commentators will talk about cancel culture as well. And so a lot of us, we want to rail hard against cancel culture. It's this terrible thing. You can't just say what you want. And I just want to say, well, yeah, that is true, because you can't just say anything you want, because certain things that we say have consequences. And so really, I think a better term for cancel culture is consequence culture. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some times that it's taken a little too far. Sure, there's things that are canceled for really no reason, but I feel like in America, Christians especially have some kind of a persecution complex. And so we try to create this false flag of oh yeah, we're people are being canceled for Christian beliefs, when really what people are being canceled for is for being insensitive, being terrible people. Consequence culture has its place, but I think what's at the base of all of this, right, is this idea of offense. We hear in a lot this word thrown around that used to mean something completely different, but the word triggered. I'm triggered right now. I'm so feeling offended, and it's really all it is a weaponization of offense. And so when we begin to feel offense in our culture, or offended by something someone says or does, what our response can be in many ways is in cancel culture, consequence culture, is to cancel that person or to push them to the side. And we might say, oh, this is something that's in our culture. It's something that is a real problem. But can I just say something for a second? Cancel culture has been around for a very, very long time. Do you know where it began? Not in some secular place, not in mainstream culture. It began in the church. Cancel culture, weaponizing offense, has been around churches for as long as they've been around, really. Somebody does something that offends our sensibility of what's right or wrong, and we write them off or we cancel them. I think offense can quickly become a very powerful weapon if we're not careful. And so even I've experienced this in my short time in ministry, where people, even me, unwittingly, have done something that offended them, or said something from the pulpit that offended them, and I may not have known that it did, but then they just stopped coming, and I stopped seeing them around, and it can be a really hard thing, because in many ways they're canceling me, canceling my ministry because of something I said or something I did that maybe offended them. But see, the scripture gives us a better way. The scripture gives us, especially in our churches. And when it comes to we can't expect everyone in our culture to adhere to this, but the scriptures give us a better way. And Jesus, in talking to his disciples in Matthew chapter 18, he gives actually a very intuitive idea of how to deal with your offense. When people offend you, when people do something that is against you or offends you. Let's read a couple verses here. Verse 15 of Matthew chapter 18 begins like this. If your brother or sister, I would include here, sins against you or offends you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you've gained a brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of two or three witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. If he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Listen, we're all going to make mistakes, and we're all going to do things that are going to offend each other, especially in the church, especially as we interact with other people in our church. But Jesus here is telling us that we should be seeking all along reconciliation. We should go to this person instead of taking the offense and taking all our feelings and canceling and going somewhere else. We should lean in. Say, hey, this really did offend me. This really did hurt me. Now, if that person, he gives us a thing. If that person's just like, whatever, I don't care. Stop being so triggered. Stop being such a snowflake. Then you bring a couple of other people to witness this idea of just not being humble, this idea of not being merciful. And then if they still continue to do it, even by the evidence there, then you start to bring it before the congregation. You do some other things here, right? And why do we do this? Why do we seek reconciliation, especially with people within our own churches? We do it because God sought reconciliation with us. You see, right after this, Peter's going to ask, Lord, how often am I supposed to forgive someone if they offend me? 7 times? And Jesus says, no, 70 times 7. And he goes on to give a parable, which is one of my favorite parables. And if you want to read it, you should read through it. But it basically talks about how much God has forgiven us. That should mean something. We should respond to that in a way that is, we freely give forgiveness, even as God has forgiven us. So today, if you're struggling with cancel culture, you're struggling with using offense yourself as a weapon, go to Matthew 18, listen to the words of Jesus, and remember, God has forgiven you so much. So how can you hold little offenses against so many other people? I love you all, and we'll see you soon. New Hope for Today is a video devotional released on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is recorded by Pastor Andrew Hise of New Hope Friends Church. New Hope Friends Church is located in Goldsboro, North Carolina at 4451 U.S. Highway 70 East. New Hope for Today. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow.